Hi, my name's Dave Darcy and you're watching Motorcycle Adventure Dirt Bike TV. Now, if you're new to the channel, we do three things. Firstly, we do motorcycle tests of all the latest adventure bikes to hit the Australian shores. Secondly, and arguably close to my favourite, is we do long-form motorcycle adventure and have a lot of fun on those movies. And thirdly, we do bike builds, and I'd like to introduce my 2023 Husky 501 Heritage Edition Rally. Now, we're partly through the build and today is about focusing on my first steps. In the last couple of days I've installed the Cush Drive, I've installed the IMS 17 litre fuel tank and the Adventure Men Cave tower. In this episode I'm going to record my experience of fitting these products and then going out and road testing them. Now, that's not a dirt test at the moment. I live in suburbia and I've got to get out into the dirt to give it a real good pasting. And the other opportunity I've got is sitting in the back is a Husky 701, my prime adventure bike that's taken me all over Australia. And with that bike, there's an opportunity of getting straight off this one onto that to feel the differences in the bike. That bike comes in at 147 kilos, this one comes in at 108. Is there that much difference before we start the bike build? And then again, let's retest that in the next episode when I have the full adventure kit on this bike. Now, if you're new to the channel, for God's sake, subscribe, or better still, join, and have a look at the benefits that joining Mad TV bring. I feel like I'm committing a crime at the moment. I'm riding a perfectly brand new 23 model FE501 in suburban streets. And this bike in the dirt is an absolute weapon. And I've got this crazy notion that I can convert it into a decent adventure bike. And I'm not the only one. Many of you have done it out there. And each person's journey is different. So I'm going to do a unique thing today. I've got the 701 in the garage, so I'm going to ride this bike on the road, and I'm going to go straight back to the 701, and then I'm going to ride that back to back. So what are my first feelings of the road on this bike? Well, it's incredibly twitchy, as in, well, twitchy's not the word, it's just responsive. It's so light and agile and can just move around. And then you expect that, it's a dirt bike. You know, it comes in at 108 kilograms. So of course it's light. But to take it into Adventureland, got to increase that fuel range, got to increase oil capacity. So there's a couple of things you've got to do, and you've got to increase carrying capacity. Now, the first step in this conversion, I'm going to do it after I ride the 701, is to put the Cush Drive on the back and just to see what difference that makes. Because at the end of the day, the reasoning for the Cush Drive is to make it more appealing on the road when it has to do, you know, tar miles. So I'm going to do that in a minute, but first I'm going to go back to my garage and ride the 701. But this is so light, it's like a little mountain bike. So there we are, back in the garage, and there's that 701. So I'll get straight off this, get on that, and feel the difference. In terms of weight, I think that's around, look, don't quote me on it, 145 kilograms, this is 108. So they're really light bikes. Okay, back on the 701, and already I've got memories flooding back of where this bike has been. This bike has done the tough stuff. You know, crossing the top end, in the Flinders Ranges, in the tropical north. It's had a tough life, but it's been amazingly excellent for those conditions that I've thrown at it. And I can't help but think, you know, this bike has 10,000 kilometre service intervals, nice big oil volume, you know, 1.8 litres or 1.7 litres. It's got good suspension, it's got a quick shifter. But what's noticeable straight away when you get on this, as opposed to the 501, is the weight, surprisingly. Yeah, there's only about probably 30 odd kilograms in it, difference. But in terms of its resistance to turn, it's noticeable. You know, the 501 is like a mountain bike. And don't get me wrong, this bike handles like a 450, but you can notice the difference between the two. This bike is also so much smoother. Like, it's got a Cush Drive, and currently it's running Pirelli Scorpions, which are good on the road, great on the road, but also a great dual purpose bike. But what I notice is when I'm going slow, I can actually feel that extra weight. You know, and I think part of it is the spinning force in the engine. That creates a gyroscopic effect, because it's a big engine. It's a 701. Okay, let's get this Cush Drive on this 501, eh? It's the next job. Okay, first step in converting this wonderful dirt bike into an adventure slayer. Get this Cush Drive on, and with the world's greatest shifter. I think that's really important, because Clive loves shifters. I'm very confident the fitting of the Cush Drive in combination with a Pirelli Scorpion Rally 140/80 will improve the ride, but more importantly, it's about protecting the gearbox. My only fear is that I may have over-tired the rear of the bike. It looks very thick. And is it going to fit? Is it going to rub on the plastics? I'm crossing my fingers it fits okay. When I was hunting around for a Cush Drive, there were a couple of $100 difference. Some definitely had more bling factor, and I bought mine from Link International. I did receive a discount on the purchase, but that aside, I like the design, and that's why I went for that one. Now, another secret to smooth adventure is to get those wheels balanced, both back and front. Nothing worse than riding along on an open stretch of country road at 100 kilometers an hour and getting your face vibrated off due to the wheels being out of balance. So that's a secret that really improves the comfort and ride of adventure at speed. The next step is to move the handlebars forward in the mounts to open up the cockpit, and that makes for lengthy periods of comfortable standing on the pegs. And if I'm lucky, I won't have to add bar risers, and that will be another thing we'll test on the road shortly. I can feel all your eyes rolling as I talk about my flippy mirrors and why. What I love about them, if they get loose, you can just turn them and tighten them up again. And if you want them out of the road, you just bank, just put them out of the road, see? And that's it, they're out of the road. Then bang, up. Now, look at that. So, ringing endorsement, there's the 701. That bike's had an absolute hammering. Flippy mirrors are still working beautifully. So much smoother with that Cush Drive. And the combination of the tyre as well. It's both. You can't eliminate one from the other. And the other thing I haven't done yet is I haven't put a dual purpose tyre on the front yet, and that'll be the next thing I do. Now, I moved the handlebars forward as well, and yeah, that's much better. Yeah, I don't need bar risers. All I needed to do was to put the handlebars forward, and I'm happy with that. No, I'm glad I put the Cush Drive in. I get it now. I wasn't going to do it. I thought it was a bit of a wank, but I'm glad I've done it. Today I'm focusing on fitting the Adventure Men Cave ProL8NAV tower and the IMS 17 litre tank, and if I'm lucky I might start on applying some of the Holeshot Graphics kit, but I can't imagine myself getting too far into that before the end of the day. So let's put it out there, my mechanical skills are pretty average, all my mates know that, and in the morning I felt like I'd bitten off a little bit more than I could chew. The tank would be a relatively easy job. The tower, on the other hand, was a little daunting. Plug and play is a term thrown around liberally in the motorcycle accessory market. Technically, fitting the Adventure Men Cave tower was plug and play, with an emphasis on more play around than plug. That said, the tower is a wonderful piece of engineering that took my wife Sonia and I about 4 hours to fit to the bike. If you're not into wiring or have limited mechanical knowledge, then I'd suggest getting a knowledgeable mate or your local mechanic to fit it for you, or better still, try the bike butler, Chris Bosselman up in Hornsby, and he'd do a great job for you. So why the Adventure Men Cave tower? Well, Mark put me onto them with his 500 build, and I saw it worked. It gave great lighting and protection, and it looked beautifully made. It looked the goods, and from what I've seen now, it is the goods. The IMS tank fitted perfectly and without a hitch. I couldn't believe how easy it was to attach the fuel pump assembly into the tank. The most fiddly part of the job were cutting out reinforcement lugs on the shrouds so that they would fit to the tank. I chose the IMS tank because it was of high quality and had a reputation amongst 500 owners of being the right kit for the bike. And I'm expecting around 400 kilometres range if I'm not too heavy on the throttle. You know, I've had the wiring out. It's been all over the place in the front. The tower's now on. Got to put some petrol in the tank. I'm really nervous. You know, this is a brand new bike. I've been stuffing around with the wiring for ages. Anyway, let's put some fuel in and see how we go. Oh, God. Here we go. What a tank. It's like the Exxon Valdez now. Alright. Maybe for a ride, see what that tower's like, see what the IMS tank is like, and my flippy mirrors. But it's starting to look the part. You know, some of the Holeshot graphics are on, but not all of them are on yet. I love the front of the bike. I'm not a tower fan, so because that's just weight over the top of your front wheel, but you know, there's trade-offs to be had. Basically, that tower there weighs about 3 kilograms, but you know what? I can barely feel it on the bike. Yeah, I don't know what all the fuss was about in my mind. I'm quite happy for that. I love the way how this punches the air. The pocket is just about to my visor and it comes around me, so it keeps the air off my chest. Very impressed with that. It's very compact. I like it, but you know, the trade-off was that it gives me my navigation and it gives me great lighting for in the desert. You know, it doesn't matter in the bush, but it's when you're in the desert and you're stuck out and you've got to ride late, and it's just good lighting is a huge advantage. Yeah, so standing on the bike, you know, the IMS tank is really narrow at the knees. It's no different to the OEM tank, I don't think. As I predicted, the bulb blinkers really don't fit with the design. I have a replacement set of LEDs ready to go, very similar to what I have on the 701, but to fit them you need to change the relay for LED wiring, and that's a job for another day. Well, that wraps up this episode of the 501 bike build. The next time we see you, we'll be fitting this True North Motos rear rack to the bike to increase the carrying capacity. Beautiful heritage blue, powder coated, looks a mint. We'll also be fitting this Adventure Bike Components clutch cover, and that gives an additional 250 mils of oil into the sump, which hopefully extends your service interval and keeps oil temperatures cool. A big shout out to Cam and Brett at Holeshot Graphics. The flavour of this bike is coming together. Now that's a Mad TV bike if I ever saw one. It looks the goods, but there's more to come. It was great working with Cam to get the graphics the way I wanted them. Clean lines focused on those heritage colours. In the next episode we'll head out to Holeshot to get some pointers from Brett and Cam as to how to fit graphics to your bike so the bike looks good and the stickers stay on. Now finally, I'd like to congratulate Kyle Roger. Kyle is going to be joining Mad TV, not only behind the scenes, but hopefully, you know, in terms of camera work and editing, but he also rides a bike as well. I think he's got a Ducati Desert X at the moment. So welcome Kyle to the team and look forward to working with you. And as a celebration, we're going to finish up with his promo he made to be the successful applicant for this job. So until next time, thanks for watching Mad TV.
It's time to get going. It's time to move on. Put this behind me. That day is gonna come. I'm breaking the walls down one by one. Nothing can stop me. That day is gonna come.
Oops. I think it's really important to be upfront with you in terms of where I'm getting the parts and what I'm paying. And I'll be frank with you, I'm not paying anything for the parts. These companies, I've approached them and they've provided the parts to me to make this build. But it's not that someone has just said, oh, here, have a free part. It doesn't work like that. I'm not interested in that. I have sought those manufacturers out, those suppliers out, because that's what I want on this bike to make this bike the best. So yes, I am being provided the parts free of charge, but they're parts that I've selected. And I think that's a very important difference. It's just not what people are pushing onto me. And there's no money changing hands in terms of what I put on this bike. This is my build and I can do as I want, and I'm free to do as I want.